Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Many thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, please take the time to hit subscribe so you can check out all my other videos. I'm recording this on the 28th of December, so if this is my first video you're watching since Christmas, let me start by saying I hope you had a great Christmas and had a bit of time off work. Given that it's the 28th, we're kind of getting to that awful point of the year where it's time to start saying Happy New Year. I'm not going to put that in every one of my videos, but let me start by saying Happy New Year to all my subscribers and all my viewers, and I hope 2018 brings you good fortune and good health. In this particular video, I wanted to talk about some of the updates relating to the Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua negotiations. David Higgins, Joseph Parker's promoter, has been relatively vocal and relatively public throughout the negotiations, providing updates with what's going on. And there's video that's been released of him discussing the current state of play. It appears that they're at the point of exchanging contracts now. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a specific source to point you in terms of where this video has come from, but what I can say is I've seen 3 or 4 different clips of David Higgins discussing this. And if you want to do your research to hear it from David Higgins' mouth rather than my own, I'm sure if you ran a search on YouTube, David Higgins, Anthony Joshua, and sorted it by videos from the last week, you'd find the clips that I'm referring to. But yeah, Higgins was talking about some of the state of play with regard to this fight and some of the updates on negotiations, and I thought some of his comments were revealing and some of them were pretty interesting actually, so I wanted to do a little video to discuss that. We've obviously discussed Parker Joshua on the channel, did a big video on the fight just before Christmas. I've always said on this channel, when I start a story, when I start talking about something, if there's an update, I like to feature it, and if I've got the time, I like to, record something to discuss the updates. The first update is almost an update in the sense that there isn't an update, but at present, no date and no venue has been agreed for the fight. So that still shows that we're not completely there with this fight. Maybe we've agreed money, etc., but those are pretty important details, and clearly you need to get that ironed out before you want to announce a fight, and obviously you need to have a venue sorted, etc., before you start selling tickets. Now, for this fight, the venue is particularly relevant because you want it to be a big venue. You want it to be a venue which can sell out 70,000 seats. Certainly the promoters will do. But given that the fight will take place in presumably March or April or etc., there are weather conditions to factor in, and you're not going to want somewhere outdoors where there's no roof, etc. So perhaps the Millennium Stadium in Wales, where Joshua fought Carlos Takam, is a likely contender for where this fight will take place. Will be interesting to see. But no date and no venue. So clearly we're not totally across the line on this fight, and there's still some details to work through. One thing David Higgins did comment on was the split. Now, it appears that he has moved from his position of it was 35% or nothing, but it appears that Eddie Hearn has gone up from 30%. Now, I've seen various things online suggesting that the agreed split is 33% to Joseph Parker, 67% to Anthony Joshua. I can neither confirm nor deny whether that's true, but what I can tell you is that, according to Higgins, Parker's getting less than 35%, but more than 30%. So the rumours that I've seen trending about 33% are likely to not be far wrong. My take on that, for what it's worth, my initial instinct is that that's a fair deal for all parties. I think that gives Joseph Parker a life-changing payday that will allow him to retire after this fight, if that was to be his wish. It will allow him to secure his family's future and future generations of the Parker family. So credit to him for that. Very, very few boxers go into the sport and get life-changing paydays, and paydays that will secure legacies for generations after you, and he's one of those. So fair play to Joseph Parker, credit to that. As for Joshua, 67% or 68% or 66%, one of those percents he's getting. Uh, we'll have to see how this fight does at the box office. It may transpire that his payday isn't massively different to the payday he got against Carlos Takam, for example. We'll have to see how big a box office draw Joshua Parker and the unification angle actually appears to be. But will be interesting to see. Will be interesting to see. But I think that's a fair deal, and I congratulate all parties involved for seemingly coming to something sensible, something logical, and getting it over the line. David Higgins, something he said which was fairly shrewd, I thought, was that he wanted the contract to be sent over to be based on the contract that Team Klitschko had. Now, Klitschko, as long-time boxing fans will know, was kind of notorious for his contracts and some of the clauses that went into them and the detail that, he invested in these contracts. So, when Vladimir Klitschko is signing a contract, you can kind of feel confident that there's a high level of security that has gone for Team Klitschko. And the fact that Higgins has specifically asked for the contract to be based on that shows that he's taken care of Parker. He also mentioned that he specifically engaged the lawyer in London who Vladimir Klitschko engaged to review the contract, and that lawyer is going to review the contract for Joseph Parker, which is shrewd business, and it shows that David Higgins has something of a brain on him. Higgins became a bit of a public figure in the UK when he did that bizarre invasion of the Hughie Fury Joseph Parker press conference. And then when he did that bizarre press conference where he was talking about Joshua's glass jaw and how he was going to reveal footage of Joshua getting, knocked out and that sort of stuff. So he kind of became a little bit of a joke figure. But to be fair to him, in hindsight, both of those moves, did he actually do a very good job of raising the profiles of the two respective fights? Did he do a good job in terms of, raising Joseph Parker's profile and making a bit more noise around that Joshua Parker fight? Maybe. You've got to give him a little bit of credit for that. And he's making some fairly shrewd moves in favour of Joseph Parker in terms of looking after his man, which is a good job to do. So, fair play to him. He's helped make this fight. He's been a big part of that. He's come to a good split, that's fair for all parties. And he seems to be doing some shrewd moves with the lawyers and the contracts and that sort of thing. He also said that he wanted neutral judges and officials, specifically no UK judges, but he did mention the British Boxing Board of Control might have a problem with that, so that was an issue yet to be ironed out. Now, I for one hope we have neutral judges in this fight. I for one hope that we do not have UK judges. UK judging for me has been subpar in the past year, and when you see fights like this being made, big fights, unification fights, the last thing you want is judging controversies. None of us sitting here watching this video want this fight to be remembered for a judging controversy. I don't think the fight will go the distance. So, whoever wins, I don't think it will go the distance. So, you like to think the judges are maybe a bit part role, but still, you should have your house in order. And I would not want UK judges. I mean, I cast my mind back to the Joshua Klitschko fight, and I appreciate that fight ended in stoppage. And as Dwyer sometimes says, stoppages cause amnesia. But at the time, Joshua was well up in that fight on the judges' scorecards after round 10. And I thought he was well up by far too far a margin. I thought the judges had him way too far in front. And, you just kind of get the impression that with some of the bizarre hometown decisions that UK judges have turned in for UK fighters, it would be in everyone's best interest just to have neutral judges. Not UK judges, not New Zealand judges. This is the highest platform for the sport. Let's not damage the sport further by having any controversy, and let's have neutral officials. Higgins said the British Boxing Board of Control may have a problem with that. I for one hope they don't. I think UK judging has had a bad look in 2017, and I think that if it continues to have a bad look, and especially in a fight as high profile as this, it will actually stop foreign champions and international champions from wanting to come over to the UK to defend their belts. So that's one that I'll be interested to see. Finally, one thing Higgins revealed is that there's going to be rematch clause in the contract. If Joseph Parker wins, Anthony Joshua will have a rematch clause, but Joseph Parker will get 55% of the split in the rematch. So, that has got to be a huge incentive for Joseph Parker. If Parker beats Joshua, that rematch in the UK will be astronomically huge. And if Parker's getting 55% of it, because I think the rematch would be a bigger fight, I think that's almost double the payday he's getting in fight one. So, very, very interesting that that's been agreed. Good bit of business, shrewd and sensible, etc. As for another comment Higgins made, if Joseph Parker loses, he still wants some sort of rematch clause. I see that as unrealistic. AJ and Hearn aren't going to give Parker an immediate rematch if he loses to AJ. I mean, if AJ, and I'm not saying this will happen, if AJ were to go and spark out Joseph Parker in one round, no one would be clamouring for that rematch. It'd be very hard to sell, etc. So, I'm not saying that Joseph Parker will get a rematch, but it's good and sensible that David Higgins is asking these questions, turning over all possible stones to get the best result for his man. And Higgins did say perhaps we can get something for Joseph Parker if he loses. And, perhaps a Parker-Dillian White fight. Perhaps a Parker-Tony Bellew fight. Parker's name and profile will be at an all-time high after the fight with Joshua, even if he were to lose. Throwing him into that heavyweight mix could be a sensible thing to do for all parties involved. Get him straight back in the scene. Get him in against a big-name heavyweight in the UK. That big-name heavyweight, be it White, be it Bellew, that'd be a big fight for them. So, maybe something like that can be arranged and organised. I don't know. But I thought this was a revealing interview from David Higgins. He's gone up in my estimations. He's shown himself to be a shrewd businessman who's had the best interests of his man at heart, and he's looked after his man, and I think he's made some good calls there. I also thought it was revealing. No time and date yet, no venue yet, but the splits are organised. Looks like the rematch split is organised. I'm hoping for neutral officials. Let's see if we can get that organised, and I think that'd be the best thing for all involved. Let me know your thoughts on this. If this is breaking news to you, if you haven't seen the video yet, do check it out. Do hit the thumbs up button on this video. As I mentioned at the start of the video, please subscribe if you haven't done so before. As always, you can leave your comments in the section below. I'm going to say thank you for tuning in and for watching my channel.